talk Mets. Last week we said that there was no indication that Phil Regan would be back as pitching coach, the Vulture. There was no indication that Chili Davis would come back. I know he was seeking out a multi-year contract, and there was some doubt that the Mets were going to entertain that idea. Now it looks like, yes, they are going to negotiate with Chili and try and bring him back, which I think is a smart move. And but it's unclear what Phil's status is. It looks like the Mets are proceeding as if he won't be back, which sucks. I mean, he turned around the pitching staff considerably. So after Dave Island was fired, I think the bullpen kind of settled down. Starters got in rhythm. That's when Zack Wheeler started to take off. So I personally would like to have Regan back. If he doesn't come back, the Mets are interested in hiring Jeremy Hefner, who was a former starter. Was he a starter or was he a reliever? I think he was a starter in the minors, and when he came up, he was in the pen. Either way, Beltran likes him. I think Beltran played with him, and he did a pretty bang-up job with the Twins. He spent last season as the assistant pitching coach with the Twins, and then was also a scout in 17 and 18. The Twins team ERA last season was 4.18, tied for 7th in the majors, 5th in the AL. Opponents did hit 257 against them, which was 20th in the majors. Their whip was tied for 9th with the Mets, and tied for 2nd for most saves and 6th in holds. So there were a lot of statistics and categories where the Twins were right there with the Mets as a team pitching, but the difference is saves and holds. So hopefully Hef can bring that over to the Metros this upcoming season. 5 questions Brodie Van Wagenen should answer at the MLB GM meetings. Number 1, are the Mets willing to go over the luxury tax threshold? History says no. I mean, they just won't. They've never been penalized for the luxury tax. I think someone on Twitter said it was like $17,500 for every dollar they go over the luxury tax threshold, which seems a bit extravagant. I assume the Yankees have gone over that every year since the dawn of time, and they've been to the playoffs almost every year. I don't know. Might be worth it. Like, can the Mets fans contribute? Can we do like a Kickstarter to cover whatever penalties the luxury tax incurs? So it's estimated we have about 100, after all is said and done with arbitration and all that, 174 million committed to the payroll in 2020 as is. Luxury tax threshold is 208 million. The penalty is, they say it's minimal. It's like, that's a lot of money for me. I don't know about you. And then we wouldn't stay over that threshold very long because the payroll clears pretty well after 2020. That said, I mean, I think you go for it, but we all know the Wilpons won't. So, although, what is the status of the dialogue with Zack Wheeler? So Mets put out the qualifying offer, the 1 year, 17 mil, something like that. Wheeler's expected to decline, but then, there was a lot of people who have just written off the Mets and said that they will not even entertain the idea of negotiating, of a multi-year contract of, 20 some odd per year with Wheeler. And now it looks like, yeah, they're going to go for it. And this is why I can never be a GM or something like that. Because now there's a portion of Mets Twitter that's like, oh, why didn't you do this before it got a hand? It's like, well, did you really know what you had halfway through the season? It's like, yeah, he had a great second half of 2018. He was uneven in the first half of 2019. And then he really got into his own in the second half of 2019. I personally think it's a risk worth taking because I don't know that you're really going to be able to afford Garrett Cole or Strasburg. Why not keep someone who's familiar with the team, the clubhouse, familiar with the surroundings, comfortable there? I'd rather just bring him back, keep him in-house than go after some free agent that might not mesh. I've been all for it from day one. I think he's just about to peak. He's about to go into that great DeGrom-esque type territory. I say go for it. The alternative is, if you don't sign him, don't go out and sign another starter. I think that's what their MO is. I think that's what they're going for. They're going to say, if we can't get Wheeler, there's no point in going after someone huge to replace him. It looks like they would probably move Lugo or Gesellman, which I hope they go for Lugo over Gesellman as the 5th starter. And then just stockpile the bullpen with arms because there are plenty of arms out there. They really are. If they can get Book 2, goes a long way. And one of those people might just be Daniel Hudson. I think he's projected to have a 5-4 record, 3.8 something ERA, 3 saves, 66 innings pitched. It's like, it just looks like a good, nice, solid line. Not blowing away guys per se. I think he was a starter at the beginning of last season, and then after he was traded, he moved to the pen, and he was incredible for the Nats. He had like a 1-something ERA, so he should be high on the list to bring in. Speaking of the pen, can Edwin Diaz be relied on as the closer in 2020? No, but I still think he can be a vital part of the bullpen. And I don't know that you need to go out and I don't even know if there is a lockdown closer available on the market, but you have seen that Justin Wilson can come in here and there. If Lugo doesn't go into the starting rotation, I think Lugo is your guy to begin with. And then hopefully, come trade deadline, you make that big move and lock down a closer. I mean, you should certainly give, say like first 2 months of the season, Diaz is your 8th inning guy. He's your setup guy and he performs well. And then, who knows down the stretch, but I think you give Diaz plenty of opportunities in games, 8th inning, 7th inning. And if he's able to hold his own and not implode like he did last year, then you start to sprinkle in some 9th inning save opportunities here and there. And if he does that, you just got to ease him back into it. Probably start him off in lower pressure situations and then build with each, build and build and build. That's the way I would approach it. But as the closer, no, thank you. Every game is so vital. We've seen that. They left 6 or 7 wins on the table last year, and a lot of those were attributed to Diaz. So I think take that out of the equation in 2020 and then put yourself in a really better position. Because if he's able to get his confidence back, get a better grip on his location and his slider, then I don't know who beats us. Nobody. Question 4 for Brodie. How will he go about improving the defense? A mantra during these meetings or surrounding Brodie in the offseason. The Mets are going to have to get creative, and that just means being smart, being strategic. There are some teams that are just going to spend. Yankees being one of them, and the Mets, it doesn't seem like they're going to be. The only big spend that I could possibly see them doing is the Zack Wheeler signing. And if they're not able to come to terms on that, which they're going to try and lean on Wheeler and be like, you've been here so long, give us a hometown deal, give us the discount. It's only 4 years. Then you can, considering how the Mets have wanted to trade him away for so long, maybe Wheeler doesn't have the kind of loyalty that we all think he does. But the two positions. But this is in reference to the defense. And so defensively, where are we soft? Where are we weak? The catcher position. I just heard Brodie on Francesa today talking about how, and Francesa went right at him. Wilson Ramos, is he a part of your plan for 2020? And Brodie, of course, gives the PC answer, and says, yes, of course, he had a renaissance or evolved over last season. Offensively, yeah. Defensively, no. He's having problems blocking the ball, throwing out runners, and also with pitchers. Like the pitchers don't want him back there. So honestly, the more I talk about it, the more I'm convinced that they're going to deal him to an American League team as a DH, hopefully get back a prospect, and then or a bullpen arm, which would be sweet, and then go after Yasmani Grandal full bore. And so that means that if they do sign Wheeler, I don't think that they bring in Grandal. I just don't see him making 2 huge deals. If they don't get Wheeler, I think Grandal has to be the number 1 target. And then you have to think about center field. Nimmo is unfortunately not a Gold Glover in center field, which is crazy to me because I feel like he just looks like he has speed. He looks like he would be able to cover a lot of ground, but apparently not. So they have to shore up center field and catcher, and I think they do that with Grandal and insert name here. Everyone's so high on Mookie Betts, and that we're one of the top candidates to land Mookie Betts, but I don't think Mookie Betts wants out of Boston, unless I don't know. I could be completely wrong, but I think he wants to see things through there and get another ring. It's like Red Sox are are kind of always in the discussion of World Series contention with the squad they have, especially since JD Martinez just opted back in. So when you have that guy back in, it starts a groundswell, and I think you have others that want to return there as well. Question number 5. How is the coaching staff surge going? Great. It's going fantastic. So let's talk about. We talked about Hefner as a potential pitching coach. It looks like they're going to enter. They're going to enter into negotiations to bring back Chile, which I love. So let's talk bench coach candidates. Terry Collins. I know we mentioned him last week. I thought that was a bad idea. I just think it seems like it's too soon, too close. I mentioned that how it's nuts how we were so out on Terry, and then the jackpot video came out and we were back in, and I totally forgot he was a special assistant to to Omar Minaya, and that he's like an advisor to the GM. But so Terry's officially out, according to the New York Post. And you don't know what to believe out of most reporters. I know Andy Martino, forget that guy, he stinks. There's a couple others that are just like, you can't believe a word they say. With the New York Post, I have a feeling that they're right on the mark. Jerry Narron, he was his name has been tossed in as a candidate. We used to be a bench coach for the D-backs. Narron's 63, been with the D-backs for 3 years. Before that, he was with the Brew Crew, and Mets assistant GM Adam Guttridge was with Milwaukee during that period, so there's some familiarity there. John Gibbons came up as a catcher with the Mets, managed in the minors, and was also managed the Blue Jays in Toronto. Media darling, laid back, likable, but not afraid to confront players. Has a good feel for strategy, according to scouts, which, I mean, take that with a grain of salt. Scouts, dude. Scouts. Pete McKinnon, highly regarded. Stints with the Reds and Phillies. Never given a shot to manage. Brian Cashman was a big fan. Good management material. Recently is currently a scouting advisor for the Phillies. Ron Washington, former manager of the Rangers. This guy is like... If I'm correct, he's like, and this is, I don't know, you can say racist, I don't care. Reminds me of like a 1970s era Dusty Baker. He just looks like, Ron Washington looks like he's permanently stuck in the 70s and 80s, like late 70s, early 80s. Currently the Braves third base coach, and he is known for his work with players, especially on defense, which the Mets have a pretty horrible defense. I was just seeing that. I was looking up some stats before the show. The Mets have last year allowed 139 stolen bases, which was first in the majors by a long shot. I want to say by like 50 stolen bases. And I know that's not necessarily defense, but it is a part of defense. When you think defense, you think errors, taking away runs. I mean, that is taking away runs, throwing out base runners, and Ramos didn't do that. And yes, a part of that responsibility falls on the pitchers, most notably Syndergaard, who takes forever to go to home despite having a 99-mile-per-hour fastball. You give the runner enough of a head start and they're going to swipe it very easily. So that's a name that I'm familiar with and that I don't hate. Sandy Alomar Jr., he was long considered a manager in waiting, went through a bunch of interviews, always came up short. He was the Mets catching instructor, 2008-2009, a sharp baseball mind, currently first base coach for the Indians. Here's that Alomar connection. We had Roberto Alomar, and he left a bad taste in my mouth. And then final candidate, bench coach candidate, Rich Donnelly. Managed 1,600 games in the minors, coached another 3,000 in the majors, sat beside Jimmy Leland, who I always thought would have been awesome as the Mets coach. Oh, I guess Donnelly managed the Mets rookie league affiliate in Kingston last season and coordinated the spring training camp for the big leagues. So those are the candidates. I guess if I had to rank them, I mean, I don't know much. In the names that stick out, I would say no to Narron, even though he has the connection that'll probably get him in. I would say maybe to Gibbons, maybe to MACKANIN. I'd probably say no to Alomar, maybe to Donnelly, maybe to Washington. I think it would probably go, I mean, as a bench coach, don't you want a guy who's been there before and has seen it all? You know, and if that's the case, I think you have to give the edge to Washington, Donnelly, MACKANIN. These are my three choices. And then they'll go through 8 rounds of interviews, and then we'll hire them in 25. Here are 5 free agents the Mets should pursue this offseason. And this is an article probably from SNY or Metsmerized Online, one of the Mets websites, fan sites. We talked about this last week. Left-handed pitcher Drew Pomeranz struggled as a starter, traded the Brewers, and then had put up some very nice numbers in relief there. In 25 games, 2.39 ERA, 0.91 whip, 45 strikeouts, 15.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. Yikes. So yeah, I would definitely, out of the 5 that are here, he's the third guy in the pecking order that I would sign, depending on how things fall with everything else. It starts with Wheeler. Okay, so Wheeler is one of the free agents on this list, and this is, remember, it's an SNY list. Wheeler's number 1. Try to lock him up, lock him down. If you can't, okay, then I can see going after Pomeranz in tandem with number 3 on this list, Yasmani Grandal. Question is, do you sign Grandal first, which would hurt our negotiating power trading Ramos, or do you trade Ramos first, which then drives up the price for Grandal? Can you do it at the same time? Turn the keys at the same time. You must turn the keys. So Grandal, Pomeranz, Wheeler, we've already mentioned. And then there's 2 Yankees on this list, and I say fuck no to both these dudes. Brett Gardner, outfielder, no thanks. 36, guy looks like a penis. I'm out. Pineda is the other one, and I mentioned Pineda in another episode. He missed all of 2018 to Tommy John. 2019 was cut short to PEDs. He's going to miss the first 39 games of 2020 with this due to the suspension. 4.01 ERA, 1.16 WHIP, 8.63 Ks per 9. I don't know. I just don't want to even. Ever since what's his name got pinched for PEDs. I'm not talking about Robbie Cano. I'm talking about Henry Mejia. It's just like they just can't keep their hands off of it. So that's a hard pass on Gardner and Pineda. The New York Post also ranked MLB's top 30 free agents and predicted where they'll sign. Wheeler came in at 4. They predict that he'll end up signing for 4 years, $85 million with the Yankees. Which, if the Yankees don't get Cole, then I could see them turning to Wheeler. I can't see them getting Cole and Wheeler. But 4 years, 85 is a cool 13 mil total above what the market value is for Wheeler. And if any team can afford to overpay, it's the fucking Yankees, man. Yasmani Grandal clocks in at number 5. He'll be 30. And the Post thinks that he's going to sign with the Mets. 4 years, 65 mil. And I am fucking getting excited talking about it. I think, I don't want to say he is the piece of the puzzle. If he can get us 3 more wins, we are right in line. 3 more wins, thanks to Grandal, plus less blown saves equals postseason, baby. Todd Frazier clocked in at 25. He's 33. New York Post thinks he's going to sign with the Brewers for 1 year, $5 million. We just have too much of we're clogged at third base. The only way I could see him possibly coming back to the Mets is if we dish Dom Smith, and then Frazier's your backup first baseman who might get a start at third should Cano and Lowry shit the bed again. He's essentially an insurance policy for $5 million. If we can get him for $5 million, it's not $9 million. But I had him. I said the Mets might entertain it if it was 1 year, $3 million, but I don't think Todd will go for that. Also, there was something with him and turkeys. He was like on the local news talking about turkeys in Tom's River. The hell was that about? I didn't even know. I don't know. I just keep seeing and hearing about it, but I don't know what the details. I'm in the know. You come to me, you're in the know. I'm in the know as in NO. Let's take a look at the NL East, other NL East teams, like their free agents and the free agents that they'll probably sign. The Nationals, they're probably going to, according to the Post, re-sign Rendon and Strasburg, which, Jesus, how much money do they fucking have? 7 years, $232 million for Rendon, 6 years, $182 for Strasburg. I guess with all that World Series money. They also, here's a name that the Mets, that has been talked about with the Mets, Will Smith, left-handed pitcher. I guess Smith is the top closer available since Chapman stayed with the Yankees. But the Nationals are probably going to sign him 3 years, $40 million. And then they'll bring back Howie Kendrick. That dude. Ugh. Plenty left in his 36-year-old tank. 1 year, $6 million. The Braves, looks like Donaldson will go back to the Braves. 3 years, $75 million. The Braves are also going to get Madison Bumgarner. Jesus Christ. I don't know how the Mets are supposed to compete with any of these freaking teams when they keep, especially the Braves, who just keep getting top-notch players. 3 years, $60 million for Bumgarner, who's 30. The Phillies will probably sign Dallas Keuchel, age 31, 3 years, $48 million. I would love to see Dallas in another division. Please get out of our division. And then the Marlins are looking to sign Yasiel Puig, who's the 26th top free agent. And I'll never understand why the Mets don't entertain. I kind of understand because he is a hothead and maybe a head case. I think he can bring some energy. And if you're winning, it's good. I don't think he's going to be a distraction. If you're losing, it could snowball. So I could see that. But we plan to win next year. And I think we're going to be right on the edge. And I was surprised we didn't even entertain the idea of bringing him in last year and trading for him. The Marlins, 1 year, $7 million. The Marlins can get Puig, age 28, for 1 year, $7 million. Guy averages like 22 home runs, 75 RBIs a season. I don't hate that. What's wrong with that? But Brodie keeps on talking about value. He mentioned value a lot on the phone call with Francesa on FAN. So I assume that that's not great value. 1 year, $7 million when you can just pay JD Davis the league minimum or whatever. I'd love to see us go after Pomeranz, Grandal. I think that's great. Try and bring back Wheeler. Go over the luxury tax threshold just a little bit to get what you want to fill the gaps, fill the holes. Because the team you have in place now, you don't want to fall short by a game this go round. It's like we fell short by 6 games, 4 games this year. Do you want to fall short by 1 game next year and just have that heartbreak again? No, let's make sure you have all the good places and pieces in place. Insurance is mostly what I'm looking for. Let's get some insurance. We have the capability with the current roster to win 90 plus. Let's get the insurance to make the probability a lot higher.